By mid-February, all of these planets will have moved into Aquarius. What does that mean for you based on your rising sign? Stick around and find out. Okay, first let's talk about Aquarius. Aquarius is represented by the star, and this energy is of your hopes and dreams, your biggest aspirations. It's also about how you represent within the whole, within the collaborative group. This is you standing out in a crowd. It's what you bring to the table. What do you have to offer that can help further humanity, further the community, and bring your resource to the discussion? So this is the energy of Aquarius, and this is the energy that we're going to be in for the next 20 years with Pluto in Aquarius. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will put a link to my Pluto and You video, and this is where I discuss the movement of Pluto out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. So we have Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years. There will be an exception later this year, but pretty much for the next 20 years, Pluto is in Aquarius. But until mid-February, the sun is also there. So these two energies, they're so close together in their degrees in the sky. This is called a cazimi. Means is the planet or planets that are near the sun are really, really amplified. It's like they've been turned up to 11. Okay, Leo rising. We start out the first of the month with both the sun and Pluto in Aquarius, which is your 7th house. The 7th house is the house of relationships, companionship, union, one-on-one interaction, both romantic, friendship, or business partnership. The 7th house is the house of collaboration and compromise. Now I've put Sun and Pluto way out here because this 7th house by the end of February is going to be, well, by the middle of February is going to be full of personal planets. So before we start, let's just a brief overview of the Sun and Pluto in your 7th house. So the sun comes through your 7th house every mid-January to mid-February when it is in Aquarius season. That sun brings the spotlight or shines the light on your relationships, your unions, your partnerships. It shines a light on enemies. If you have any known enemies, sometimes they come out in this period. This is also a period of bringing together that collaboration or that partnership in a marriage or a union. So that's the light that's going to be shining not only just for the next month, but with Pluto in your 7th house, this is going to be bringing a rebirth, in a sense, a new revelation to your relationship situation. So if you want to know more about that, I will put a link to my Pluto and You video where you can click on that and find out a much deeper read about what Pluto in your 7th house might bring you over the next 20 years. But I have a lot to get to in February, so I'm not going to go into that in this video. But we're going to start with Mercury. Mercury is the magician. This is the energy of creation and manifestation. Mercury moves into the 7th house, your house of relationships. So Mercury brings out communication. Mercury is the messenger. Mercury was the mythological creature who could communicate between the living and the dead, which not everybody could do. So Mercury was very special in disseminating information. So Mercury coming into your 7th house in Aquarius enhances communication within your partnerships, within your collaborations, within these unions. And again, this doesn't have to be romantic. This can be a business partnership. This can be a best friendship. This fosters intellectual exchange and collaborative discussions. So you're coming together, your communication is wide open, and you're able to flow out your message within this partnership situation. Now on the 9th of the month, the moon or the high priestess will have moved also into your 7th house or into Aquarius. So when the moon and the sun are together in the same sign, this is a new moon. A new moon is the beginning of a new moon cycle. So this is a time for us to start fresh, start things new. This is an opportunity. It's like a little mini new year every month. You have an opportunity at every new moon to start something new within regards to the energy that is coming out from that moon. So a new moon in your 7th house in Aquarius is bringing that transformative energy, that new rebirthing energy to your relationships, to your partnerships. It fosters deep shifts in your communication. So maybe there's been some sort of block or lacking in your communication in that relationship. This is going to help foster open communication. Now on the 12th of the month, Mars, or the Tower, don't let this card scare you. This energy is just raw force of energy, like a lightning bolt. So it really just, it energizes. It's like you plugged something in when Mars comes in. So Mars also comes into your 7th house, into Aquarius. Well, that brings that raw energy to your partnership. This encourages you to be a little more assertive, maybe a little more action-oriented in this relationship. Maybe it's been a little dull, a little slow lately. So Mars comes in and, flips the switch on and says, action, you're alive, wake up. Bring that energy to dynamic interactions with your partner, with this other person that you are in a union or a partnership with. This could be putting energy towards a marriage. Maybe you've been sitting on this idea of maybe you want to ask someone to marry you. Maybe you want to get the marriage going. You want to start planning a wedding. This is the time. This is the time to use that action. You've been plugged in. Now use that energy within your dynamic interactions and within your collaborative or compromising communication and effort in your relationship. Now, just when we don't have enough room in this house to put any more planets, here comes Venus. Venus is the energy of growth and abundance and fertility. Venus also comes into this party. There's so much here we can't even put it in that house, so we're going to put it right next door. But Venus is also in the 7th house in Aquarius. What does Venus bring? Venus is our values. Venus is also money, so there's monetary value, but it's also self-worth and how much we value ourselves, both as an emotional person as well as our financial value of ourselves. So Venus is bringing that energy of abundance and fertility and money and love of what you do and value what you do to your relationship. So it's enhancing your relationship with an emphasis on this unique connection. Aquarius is uniqueness. So Aquarius in your 7th house means that your relationships have a little bit of a weird vibe to them, whatever that means. I don't mean to offend anybody by that, but there is this sort of individualism that comes out with Aquarius. So the emphasis here with Venus on this house of relationships is enhancing your unique connections with your partner. It's enhancing that intellectual rapport with Mercury there. Mercury and Venus work really well together, and Mercury is bringing out the words and Venus is giving them that lovely, dipping them in honey syrup to make them sweet. It's also bringing out your desire for maybe some unconventional aspects within your relationship, something that is just a little bit different than what you've done before. I don't know what that means for you, only you can, but that is the energy of all this planetary action, all this movement going on in your 7th house. Now, we're going to move on a little bit because some of these planets are going to move into Pisces. But before we move those over, we need to talk about Saturn and Neptune. Saturn and Neptune have both been in Pisces in your 8th house for a while, and they will be there until 2025. Now, the 8th house is a very tricky house. It's an intense house. The 8th house is one of the most personal houses. It is where we strip away all the things that are on the surface and we dive deep into our psyche, into our deep emotional self. The 8th house is generally called the house of intimacy and shared resources. So a lot of time, if you're in a relationship and you share resources, you might know that intimacy and shared resources can play a part in each other. They have a role with each other. So any blockages to intimacy, both you intimately, evaluating yourself, especially your psychic mind, your traumas, your triggers, your past things that have happened to you that have made you who you are, maybe helped you to build that block around you that keeps you protected and safe. These things are having to come out. You're having to tear open that just a bit so that you can explore more of your psyche, more of what's happening inside, so you can, it's for, spiritual soul, evolutionary growth, so that you can move on. So Saturn is discipline and structure and heavy task-oriented work. Saturn is work. So Saturn over here is bringing a period of structured introspection and disciplined exploration of your spiritual and philosophical beliefs. So maybe you've been thinking about a lot of things. Now's the time to really focus on getting that structured, whatever that is for you. If you're learning about psychology, you're diving deep into your own psychic power, you're going and finding a counselor so you can deal with your traumatic past, anything like that, taking a more structured and disciplined approach to it. Now, Neptune is at home in Pisces. Neptune rules Pisces, so you have an amplification of power here. You've got the Dream King at home in the dreamland. So Neptune in your 8th house during this time until 2025, it has evoked a period of spiritual exploration. It may have blurred the boundaries between reality and your beliefs, and it has the potential for pushing you on to these idealistic pursuits when it comes to higher knowledge, when it comes to expressing yourself on a spiritual level. Okay, so Leo rising, moving on. On the 18th of the month, the sun is going to finally move out of Aquarius and into Pisces. So it gives us a little bit of room over here in your 7th house. The spotlight is now on this 8th house, this house of personal transformation. With the sun there, it illuminates your emotional depths. The 8th house is like a swamp. So it's mushy and things can get sucked into it and get hidden in that mud and that muck. It's not a pleasant house. It can be, the Scorpio or the 8th house has the associations of like, the swamp is kind of dank, it's kind of stinky, it's kind of gross in a way. And that's no offense against Scorpios, but a lot of people with a lot of scorpionic energy or a lot of planets in the 8th house tend to be those people who like things that are kind of gross and icky. Not everybody can be a surgeon. It takes a certain kind of person to be able to cut into a human body and to do some kind of, something with it. Not everybody can do it. I certainly couldn't do that. But that's a very scorpionic energy, literally dissecting the human body. So if you think about dissection on a spiritual level, on an emotional level, that is what the 8th house is. You are dissecting yourself. You're cutting yourself open. You're exposing things that maybe don't need to be exposed, that should remain hidden, but they are being exposed. Secrets come out. The 8th house is a house of figuring out why you act the way you act when it comes to your triggers and your traumas. So with the sun moving on into the 8th house, this illuminates these themes of emotional depths, of shared resources and personal transformation. And this is a time of, again, heightened introspective insights. You might be feeling like you're tapping into your personal psychic power, or you're just feeling a deep desire to explore who you are and to figure out how you can maybe rewire your brain in a way that works better for you and that has more potential for evolution and for spiritual growth. Now on the 22nd of the month, Mercury is going to move over here into Pisces. So let me see if I can get this out without destroying everything here. So Mercury moves over here into Pisces, into your 8th house. Mercury, bringing that communication, that messenger energy in your 8th house, enhances intuitive communication. This fosters profound insights and deepens your connections in these matters relating to your shared resources, to your personal transformation, to your intimacy both with self and a partner, and to the broader mysteries of life. During this 8th house transit, both the temporary transits of the sun and Mercury moving through, but also the longer term transits, it might prompt you to explore things that are a little bit more mysterious, things that are paranormal, things that are not the norm. Now, lastly, Leo rising. On the 24th of the month, the moon will have moved all the way around to Virgo. Virgo is the opposite of Pisces. So whenever the sun and the moon are in opposites, they are highlighting, this is the two luminaries, and when the full moon, we see all that moonlight shining, it highlights or illuminates two areas of life that may be in conflict and that you may need to find some balance. So this full moon, with the moon coming into Virgo, which is your second house, the second house is the house of personal resources. No longer are we talking about the shared resources. This is now your personal resources, money you make for yourself, things that you have on hand for you. This is also personal worth, not just financial worth, but how you value yourself as a human being. Are you worthy of making this money? Are you worthy of supporting yourself? Are you worthy of self-sufficiency? Are you worthy of the possessions that you have? The second house is the house of possessions. Are you a hoarder? Are you a minimalist? This is all about that energy. So you have some heightened emotion around that, and it's opposing all this energy in the 8th house, where you are trying to find some spiritual insight into your own psychic depths. So this brings heightened awareness to these practical matters, and Virgo is a practical sign, so you, Leo rising, you generally tend to be pretty practical in matters of work and finances and making money. So this is heightening this awareness of your practical need for financial concerns, your communication, and any challenges or surrounding your income or your personal values or your possessions. So this full moon is highlighting a need to balance this meticulous approach to your material aspects and your self-expression, and how that relates to your shared resources and your shared expression, especially when it comes to finances, because the second house and the 8th house really are money houses. That's how we provide for ourselves. That's how we can be provided for or provide for others. So this is definitely an emphasis on your finances, on self-sufficiency, taking care of yourself. So Leo rising, that's what I have for you this month. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Bye.